Hey, Ryan Willoughby here, and I wanted to come on here and just talk about the highest, grandest perspective as we are all moving through this human experience of the collective of humanity that is ascending into all new levels of consciousness. The sovereign self, the sovereign being, the collective, the unity consciousness that we all are. There is so much that's moving through at this time. There is so much of a collective awakening, and then the new levels of expansion that the awakened are moving through as well. On the physical level of ascension, of the physical bodies that are moving into the light body aspect, and the earth, what is occurring and happening with the earth at this time. It is the return to the knowing and the truth of who and what you are, that you are God, that it is God that is moving through you, that animates and that creates through you. It is this evolution in our consciousness that is allowing our human self, our body, and our mind to come into the comprehension that it is not in charge, that all along it has been the divine will of God in every aspect of every experience of creation that we have had. It is God's will or the allowance of God and God's will that every experience that ever has been had within any dimension of creation and consciousness is God's will. It is coming into that understanding that releases the pure innocence of our being, but yet allows us to have the reverence for the whole experience of whatever dimension that we have focused ourselves into to experience. This is the absolute freedom. This is what allows us to remove the shackles of judgment of ourselves and of fellow man, that allows us to ascend from the third dimension of the experience of limitation, of separateness. I want to talk about the paradox of what it is to experience limitation, lack, and separation. That there has to be a story that is involved, that is the imagination of God, the one divine being. And in that story, we as humanity will be coming to know the true roots of our history, of our journey through consciousness, through these physical vessels that we call the human body. And it'll be in that that we will have to surrender into the truth of our origins and the other beings that are part of the co-creation that are in that story in the imagination of God, and that we do not have any attachment or judgment in that journey, in that story, that will allow us to move into being the true creators of the God consciousness that we are while we are in these physical forms, that we will be able to transcend out of the old story, but we must know that story and to not judge it. That would allow us to transcend it, to start existing as the creators that we are in the full power of everything that we are, that lives in the absolute state of pure unconditional love, to create and allow the full faucet of love and energy to move through us in these physical forms to create the full power that we are. There is this journey that we were very excited to go on through the third dimension of lack, separation. We focused ourselves into a point in a timeline that we would remember and to know that that story is not real. But yet the experience of moving through that story while we were in it was very real. It doesn't give it less meaning. We are about to be given disclosure on the origins of that story. And it'll be through the unconditional love of the knowing that we are the author of that story that will permit us not to be entangled in the judgment of it. This is very critical. This is why before the origins of the story and the full story can be revealed, we must first come into the full knowing and truth and the power that we are Source, God, the Creator, first. The awakening to your truth, and then the realization of that truth, and the full embodiment and the allowing of the activation of the light body that is you must occur. And a certain percentage of our collective, of the human species, must be reached before full disclosure can be revealed. And this is where we are at this particular point in time. There is such a paradox that exists here. But it is in this truth and this knowing that you can really come into the realization that you are God here in physical form, that every brother and sister of yours is God. While you are living within the construct of a collective that is really moving through the fourth dimension of transformation, of remembering and integration. And that even while you are in the absolute knowing of the truth of who and what you are, that you as a sovereign being may also be moving through the integration on a physical level. But you can completely shift in an instant into the truth of who and not of what you are, and release any of the habitual thinking, behaviors. It really is letting go of that of what you have always known to be because it's comfortable, and completely letting go of that to allow yourself to move into a complete space of unknowing of what is to come, while knowing the absolute truth of who and what you are. The paradox of existing in physical form and having an experience of being outside of that of what you are while knowing that you are that of what is inside you, that is holding the space for you to have a sovereign experience of that of what you are, that is unity. the paradox, to live within that paradox that creates all the magic and wonder, miracles and synchronicities. To fully surrender and to fall into the absolute truth of the loving, unconditional love, the unconditional loving arms of Source, of God that is you, while being in this physical form and knowing that it is that of what is God that is within you and also holds you, holds the space for you to experience and to create in through the divine thinking and the divine focus of the will of God. This is who and what you are. This is who and what I am. This is who and what every being is. Now, whether or not it is of their divine time, just as the divine will of God decides when the flower will bloom and open, same as so with the divine being of when they will remember and know the truth of who and what they are. It is not for us to wish our brother and sister to be awakened or to awaken them, but to honor them as the divine creator that they are, to experience and to express through the divine will of God, either the experience of knowing or not knowing the truth of who and what they are. It is through the imagination of God that allows this state of reality that exists within a certain level of consciousness, that allows us to experience that of the divine will of God through that of what we're not. And that is divinity in itself. To allow that to be without judgment will allow us to transcend it while still staying in physical form, to have a memory of that of what was not God, and then to be in the pure, unconditional love of the existence of what God is, and the same physical vessel that's experienced both. That's what this timeline offers us. That's what's so magical. That's what's so brilliant. And it is so important that as this timeline unfolds, as our galactic brothers and sisters join us, as we get introduced to the extraterrestrial galactic family that's been a part of our origin story, that we do not get lost in the story, but yet we celebrate in the diversity of the expression of the God that we are. The God that is in the rock, the God that is in the flower, the God that is in the stag, the God that is within you, and the God that is within the extraterrestrials, the God that is in our earth, the God that is all things, the God that is the divine will, that is you, that we do not get lost in the story that allows all of this experience, but yet the experience is the divine will that is you. The paradox of existing, allow that to be, know the truth of your being, and then be in the absolute joy and the bliss of the unfolding of this magnificent story that we are the authors of, the producers of, and the actors within it. Sending you so much love. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. If you'd like to expand and to play more, go to ryanwilloughby.com, and I would love to hear from you. Take care, everyone. Talk soon. Bye.